Hello. I know it's been a while since I've updated this channel, but it's good to see you and it's good to be back. Welcome to Outmouse Labs. My name is Benny. So this video is going to be the first in a series in which we're going to make an RPG Maker game together in MZ, although most of this will also apply to MV and even VXAce. To start with, we're going to talk about goals and then what I've already done in advance to set this up. If you want to code along, so to speak, feel free. I will be using the all-in-one 8-bit resource DLC from Katakawa, but you can use any resources you like and make your own version of this as well. So, what are we going to make? Well, we're going to make a game that resembles a classic console-based party RPG like Final Fantasy 1 or Dragon Quest 2 and 3 or maybe even Super Mario RPG. As we do this, we're going to create at least 5 and possibly up to 7 playable characters. We're going to build at least 3 and up to 7 dungeons with different motifs, traps, and monsters. And we're going to include items. Normal items that heal our allies, harm our enemies, and can be used as parts of puzzles on the map, but also items that modify character stats and teach characters abilities. We're not going to use a standard level system. We're going to use a sort of purchase model where you can customize your characters to your playstyle. Systematically, we're also going to learn to use the default side view battle system, use plugins to make it our own, and we're going to write some plugins as too. I'm going to walk you through creating your own plugins that mimic the Dungeons and Dragons mechanics. And instead of multiple weapons, we're also going to create a system where the character's weapon is upgraded over time. Since we're using D&D mechanics, this will probably be a combination of improving its bonus damage as well as increasing the weapon's die size over time. If you don't know D&D, don't worry. We're just going to be using it as a base. I think you'll learn the basics really quickly, and you can always ignore it and make it your own as well. To keep things simple, we'll use traditional material tiers for armor and have several accessories as well. To tie everything together, we're going to write a story and learn about how game design documents work and how to stay on task. This is definitely the hardest part for RPG Maker games. I know that I personally have started many that and only finished one over the years. So hopefully by staying organized and staying on target, we'll be able to avoid that fate. All right. So step 1 is going to be getting your resources together. At this point, I'm going to shrink myself down here so you can see RPG Maker, and we will move forward with that. Let me see. Turn it on, and then there we go. Perfect. Okay, so we're looking at RPG Maker. If you are just getting started, you would go to New Project and create a new project wherever you'd like and load it up. Once it's loaded up, you are going to go to Game, Open Folder. This is going to open up your game folder. So this is where all of your different assets are going to go. And if you are using DLCs and you have Steam, the easiest way to get there is to click on Steam, go to Library, go to MZ, right-click, say Manage, Browse Local Files, and then go to DLC, and then you have all of your DLCs right there. Now, I've already added them in, but for instance, just to kind of show it, let's say you're using the 8-bit graphics, and you want to use images from that, and you want to use the faces, let's just say. So, oops, wrong one. You would go and grab a hold of whatever you wanted, and you would copy it into your game folder, which again is over here. And so you would go to Image, Faces, and post it in. All right, so that's how it works. It's really simple. If you need help with custom assets beyond that, I highly recommend looking into Lorelei's playlist for that. And I will have a link below for you there. Definitely check out her playlist on using custom assets. She covers everything from making auto tiles to adding in custom assets to creating characters. It's really extensive and really great, so go ahead and give her the watch. I'll be here when you get back. Okay, well, if you did go, welcome back. Otherwise, we are now all set to go, so hopefully you have your custom assets if you're using them, or if you're using default, you're ready to go. Now, once they're in the folders, you also have to tell the engine what they're for. So, by example, if you were to go to tile sets, by default, you'd have all of the defaults inside the overworld. So you would go in and change it over to the assets you're using. So in my case, World 1. And then you would have to go through also and fill in, for instance, your passage, your four directions if you have any, your ladders, your bushes, all of those things. If you want support on what that looks like, you can, I think Lorelai's videos cover that. I have some previous videos that cover that. And any sort of basic how to use the engine tutorial would walk you through the process of setting up a tile set or going to actors and picking new faces. And we're going to look at some of that as well. So hopefully at this point you have your assets how you want them and you are ready to go. All right, so step 2 is going to be plugin management. We're going to make a custom plugin, but real fast. This is where you load plugins in. I have a bunch. It doesn't necessarily seem that you're going to use all of these. I do recommend, if you are going to use plugins, figure out what plugins you want to use as early as possible. Get them set up and working. Make sure that they play nice together. Don't be afraid to use plugins. They add so much to the engine. They allow you to be much more custom. I highly recommend it. We are going to make our own plugin, and that'll teach you a little bit more about how they work. There are tons of free assets out there to use, and several of them are really, really great. Let's see. So that when you have a plugin, you load it here, and then if you have commands for it, it's real simple. You would do something. You would go over to Command 3, plugin command. And I'll actually show you based on the ones that we're going to make. We're going to be making one for D&D. And now it has our commands like rolling a dice. We're going to roll 1d20. And bada bing, that's all set to go with event 2. So it's very, very easy in MZ, much easier than MV, both to make the plugins and to use them effectively. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at that. I am just going to go into my JS folder, and I'm going to be using VS Code. You can use whatever you'd like. Open it up with code. This will pop up. You would click, make sure you're in the plugins folder, then new file, and then name it whatever you like. Either whatever the name is, you need to know, it's important. All right. And so everything in green is JS documentation, and it's what allows the engine to know how your plugin works. So for instance, at plugin description is a little description, author is Outmouse Labs, and version is 1.0. If we go into the engine and open up the plugins and we open up mine, you will see there is the same line in the description. There's the author. I may not actually put the version on here. The help file, which was, if you look over here, we have our help section. So it's all of these, everything below at help. Well, that now is in the engine all through here. So this is how you let the user know how to use your stuff. This is how you get the engine to understand what your plugin's supposed to do. Now, what's important to understand, though, is that it doesn't actually do anything. The green is for letting the engine know what to do. It doesn't actually have any function. So our code really starts here. If you'd like to learn more about how to make plugins, I have a whole series on it. Please check it out. It gives you all the basics. You can ask questions here too. The basic things, kind of going over it, we create containers. These containers are almost like boxes that we put code in. So we have one called AML and one called AML.attackFormulas D&D. Then we create inside of our container, we create a variable called plugin name that has the name of our plugin. This has to be exactly the same as the name over here. Then we use the register command method, which is built into RPG Maker, and we say that we have a command called follower balloon. Now that command was set up here. So we have command follower balloon. This tells you what it does. This tells you what it does. This creates arguments, which are variables that are specific to the command. And we have all of our different arguments. And then we have another command called roll dice. Down here, we register it and tell the engine what to do something with it. In this case, we tell it to find the follower and find the balloon and then put the balloon above the follower. This is really convenient to have. We also have a attack formula for roll dice. So this takes the size of the dice, the number of dice, and it rolls it, adds them all together, and returns the it sets the value of whatever our result var that we created. So I'll show you where that's at. Over here, we have a parameter we ask them to set a variable to be it. If we click on that, You can put it wherever you want. I suggest naming it result var to remind yourself. There you go. So it will set that variable to whatever we rolled. That allows us to do all kinds of if, then, and conditional statements, rolling our d20, or whatever other die we want to roll. Next up, we have our formulas. The first one is to get the bonus. In D&D, a stat is the stat minus 10 divided by 2, rounded down to get the bonus. So a 10 minus 10 is 0, divided by 2 is 0, so it's a plus 0. A 12 minus 10 is 2, divided by 2 is 1, so it's a plus 1. That's how that works. So we created a quick function to do that math for us. And then we go through and we create attacks. We have the standard attack. We have a heal function. We have a state attack that changes depending on the state of the target. We have a user state attack, an attack that changes depends on the state of the user. We have an assassinate, which auto kills or does massive damage. We have armor and pierce, an attack that ignores defense. And we have turn undead, which is an attack that does massive damage to undead based on a state that we declare as undead, or 0. Right? So our basic D&D functions. Again, if you want to learn more about making plugins, please watch the other series and you'll learn a whole bunch. But this is enough to get us going. So that's our custom plugin. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. All right. I think having our plugin set up, that is actually going to be enough for this first video. In step 3, we're going to scaffold our story, kind of get an idea of the story we're going to tell, and build out our characters. So I will see you in the next video for step 3. See you soon, and happy game making.